Episode 1 opens with a slow, burning visual of the Oregon frontier wrapped in a pale silver dawn, where wind cuts through the grasslands like a warning whispered by the land itself. And in the very first frame we meet Willa Hayes, a widowed rancher whose eyes carry a tired determination shaped by grief and survival, and as she walks across her property holding a dented metal lantern, trying to check why her horses had panicked in the middle of the night, she notices something unusual. Hoof prints circling her barn in a perfect ring, each one deeper than the next, as if the rider had been watching her home for hours instead of passing by, and Willa crouches to examine them more closely while her breath fogs in the cold morning air, feeling a strange prickle on her neck as though someone is still watching from the shadows. Inside the barn, she finds her youngest horse restless, kicking at the stall door, and the lantern flickers as she approaches the gate, prompting her to pause because the temperature suddenly drops around her. But before she can process the eerie stillness, her son Illy calls her from the porch asking if breakfast is ready, giving her a moment of normalcy before the unease returns like a quiet storm waiting to break. This scene cleverly sets the episode's tone, an atmosphere of dread layered beneath the simplicity of frontier life. Willa tries to push aside her anxiety as she prepares breakfast, but her mind keeps returning to the hoof prints, remembering how many families in nearby valleys had been mysteriously forced off their land during the last 2 months, each case dismissed by the sheriff as accidents, deaths, or personal decisions to relocate, yet everyone secretly whispered about a secret group known only as the Trust, rumored to be reclaiming land through threats, sabotage, and disappearances. Willa never believed the stories, until now. Later that morning, she saddles her horse and rides into town to speak with Sheriff Maddox, who is leaning against his office door chewing tobacco as if the world has nothing urgent happening. And when Willa explains the hoof marks and how they circled her barn repeatedly, the sheriff scoffs and says it's probably kids messing around or workers from a nearby ranch passing by in the night, dismissing her intuition with a lazy shrug, telling her she's still grieving her husband and imagining threats where there aren't any, which visibly irritates Willa, though she hides it beneath a cold stare. As she leaves the office, she sees Connell, her rebellious neighbor with a reputation for feuding with land barons, leaning against his wagon sharpening a hunting knife, and he calls out sarcastically, asking if the sheriff solved all her problems with one of his famous non-answers, earning a reluctant smirk from Willa. Connell tells her quietly that 3 nights ago he saw riders patrolling her boundary around midnight, keeping their lanterns dim enough to blend with the darkness, and that they were wearing long coats carrying rifles. Definitely not teenagers looking for fun. He warns her that the Trust has begun moving in from the north and that families who received the mark never lasted more than a week before abandoning their homes entirely or disappearing beyond search. Willa doesn't fully believe his dramatic tone but can't ignore how her gut twists when he says the last family targeted was the Carsons, whose property burned to the ground after they refused to sell. The episode adds tension through subtle scenes showing townspeople whispering about increasing pressure to give up their land to unnamed buyers. And Willa notices how the general store owner avoids eye contact when she mentions the previous night's incident, as if he knows more than he wants to admit. As Willa returns home, she stops at the edge of her ranch because she sees something odd tied to her gate, a thin, blood-red ribbon fluttering quietly in the wind, and though simple, its presence feels heavy with meaning. Connell's words echo in her mind, "If they mark your land, they're coming back." She dismounts and inspects the ribbon closely, noticing faint scratches on the wooden gate, as though something sharp had been dragged across the planks. At dinner that night, her older son Jacob tries to reassure her, saying maybe the ribbon was left by travelers, but Willa feels the weight of danger sharpening around them. The lanterns in the house flicker again around 9 p.m., and the family dog growls at the window with its back arched, staring into the darkness outside. Willa grabs her rifle and steps onto the porch, where the cold night presses against her skin as though the air itself holds its breath. She hears nothing at first, no horses, no footsteps, only the constant whisper of the wind. But then, from the tree line across her yard, she hears a faint rustling followed by the sound of someone exhaling sharply. And as the clouds shift, letting the moonlight brighten the land, she sees three shadowy figures on horseback observing the house silently. They do not speak, they do not move, they simply stand there half hidden, like predators patiently watching their prey. Before she can call out to them, they disappear into the fog that rolls across the field like a creeping tide, leaving behind an unsettling silence. When Willa returns inside, Illy tells her he heard someone whisper his name from outside his window just minutes earlier, and this single moment shakes Willa more than anything else, because it implies whoever was outside wasn't merely watching. They were testing how close they could get without being detected. Later that night, as the family tries to sleep, Willa stays awake on a rocking chair with her rifle across her lap, listening for any sound that might hint at intruders. The episode subtly shifts into a psychological thriller tone here, focusing on Willa's internal battle between fear and determination. Through brief flashbacks, we see her husband's death during a brutal winter, reminding us why she clings fiercely to the land that holds her family's memories. Around midnight, a loud metallic clink echoes from the barn, prompting Willa to rush outside barefoot, lantern in hand, scanning the yard frantically only to find the barn door wide open despite securing it earlier. Inside, the horses are in chaos, kicking and neighing as if reacting to something unseen. She notices a wooden emblem placed neatly on the ground, carved with a symbol resembling a circle divided by jagged lines. This is the same type of emblem reportedly found at abandoned homesteads before the owners disappeared. Panic and fury collide in Willa's chest as she realizes this is no longer paranoia. Someone is deliberately targeting her. Following morning, Connell storms onto her property with urgency, saying he heard rumors that the trust held a meeting the previous night, listing the next set of properties they planned to seize, and the Hayes Ranch was at the top of their list. He tells Willa that the red ribbon is not a warning, it's a countdown. He believes she has less than a week before they strike in full force. Episode 1 concludes with Willa standing at the edge of her land at sunrise, looking out at the wind-swept fields that hold her family's entire history, and as the camera pans back, we see the faint silhouettes of riders in the distant hills, barely visible but unmistakably watching, reminding viewers that danger isn't approaching, it has already arrived. The final line of the episode, delivered by Connell with a grim seriousness, leaves the audience with chills. They marked your land, and they never mark anything they don't plan to take. And as Willa grips her rifle tighter, the screen fades to black, marking the end of episode 1, but the beginning of a war she never asked for, but now has no choice but to fight.